Week 7, we've got injuries, we've got bye weeks, we've got trade rumors, we've got everything, and the Player Profiler Network has you covered on all those fronts. But we're still here for the same job, finding some winners, making some money on the pick and board. This is the Player Profiler Pick and Power Hour, Week 7, kicking off now. Welcome to the Player Profiler Pick and Power Hour. We're in Week 7, episode number 1. If you are hearing this on a podcast network after we upload it, well, we are always live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter on Wednesdays, and for the bonus shows on Fridays. But I'm Ahan Rungta, and I'm with my co-host, Trevor Tipton, who is coming off a winner in Week 6. We love to see those greens. Trevor, how you feeling after the winner? Despite the 49ers finally losing a game, probably it mitigates the pain, I would assume.
A little bit. As crazy as this sounds, I'm kind of glad that game with the Niners happened. We needed it. What excites me is we had no CMC, we had no Debo, and Brock got us down the field and put us in position to win when he didn't have his best game. That's what I want out of my quarterback, right? Like, they're not going to just be these insane guys every week. And everybody got to see how good Cleveland's defense really is. But he got us there. He got us in position. So that was, for me, what I really wanted to see there. Like I said, I'm kind of glad it happened. I'm glad none of the injuries are crazy because, we got the news today. Richardson's done for the season. We have some, we have some crazy stuff. While I had a good week, it was wild overall. I think we could agree we had a ton of more injuries this week. At one point, I literally almost threw my phone across the room because I'm like, and I'm not just talking about the Niners. I'm just right. We're losing guys left and right. I'm a proponent of I don't think these teams should have turf. I think every NFL stadium should be grass. They can afford it. And the thing I don't understand is, I wanted to ask you this question as we're starting off today, is if you're a billionaire who owns $1 billion business, which every single NFL team is, and you're paying these guys all this money every week, why would you not want to invest into a field that was grass and spend the money there so the guys aren't hurt? That's the part I can't wrap my head around.
It beats me, and you saw it with Aaron Rodgers, and it's kind of been like the earliest example I can think of in recent times that people maybe are still talking about is Sterling Shepard last year, and obviously Sterling Shepard barely getting to play now, and it sucks. NFL players don't like turf. Garrett Wilson was tweeting about it. We almost lost him too, but thankfully he's fine. Turf is. The NFL owners being cheap just will never make sense to me. So I'm glad we didn't lose Garrett Wilson, but not happy that we're losing a lot of other guys. And even we had some non-turf injuries as well, like you mentioned with the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, and the list goes on. I personally am coming off my worst week of the season in every sense, right? Betting on the sports books, pick'ems. I think on the picks that I uploaded to the Underdog Pick Generator that I didn't give out on the show, I think I went 3-1. But of course, I picked the 0-2 card for the show. Just is that way. I'm in that kind of a groove the last few weeks. Zay Flowers, we had the higher 56.5 receiving yards, and I think we're both on the same page on that one. Gets his 8 targets, which I'll be happy if you tell me he gets 8 targets against a defense that has been allowing every receiver pretty much to go over 100 yards. I would assume Zay Flowers gets 57. He gets 50. It is what it is. I'm fine with that read. And then the other, like Jake Elliott, higher than 1.5 field goals made. That game was just weird from the get-go. I figured the Jets would make it interesting. Defensively, they have a deep defense, but without Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, they still managed to get 3 picks out of Jalen Hurts, which I don't think, if that game gets played 100 times, I don't think Jalen Hurts throws 3 picks against that shorthanded defense every single time. It is what it is, that kind of week. But no more excuses. We're about to find some new winners for Week 7, and it starts with today's show, which is going to be about Thursday Night Football. But I want one final, some quick takeaways from Week 6 before we can move on. The good, we saw Zeke Elliott get his first touchdown. The bad, it required a Stevenson injury. He was sidelined for about a couple of quarters. And while that happened, Zeke Elliott with the direct snap touchdown. The good news is we only need five. So I guess we're 20% of the way there. The bad news is that he's gonna have to earn those goal line touches more going forward, and I'm not sure we're gonna get that. The other news is DK Metcalf has been open a lot lately, and I just wanted to address this real quick. I mean, we saw him get a 15-yard penalty because he was taking out his frustration on defenders. People keep tagging me on this DK Metcalf thing. Like, I get it. Like, I don't have like his phone number to tell him to stop doing this, right? Like, we got to stop tagging on Twitter whenever DK Metcalf does this. But if for some reason he is hearing this, and I see he is liking tweets about this, if for some reason he is hearing this podcast, well, DK, you should stick around. This podcast is great. But may I suggest you take out your frustration like every other star wide receiver does in the locker room, throw a hissy fit like Jamar Chase. Just do that. Like, don't be shoving defenders around. But he does have 2 touchdowns. We need 7. So yeah, long way to go. Hopefully David Montgomery, speaking of injuries, is back soon. But
yeah, I think we'll be okay there. It's just some ribs. He'll be a week or two and then he'll be fine. I'm not worried about Monty. Other than it really hurts me on fantasy because season long I have a lot of Monty. So
yeah. Going to be tough to set those fantasy lineups in week 7, that's for sure, especially with people spending 50% fab in some places on Zach Evans. But that's another story. That's another story. Trevor, week 6 wise, we're about a third of the way into the regular season. Well, we are in terms of weeks, 33% of the way into the season. Give me one quick takeaway, a new non-Bryce Young takeaway that we have entering week 7.
All right, if you close your eyes and you haven't watched any NFL, all right, I'm gonna turn it back to the Swifties, and I'm teaching you about football, and you get to watch these 3 incredible cornerbacks: Patrick Surtain II, McMillan, and Mathis. And I tell you, you get all 3 of them on one team. Would you ever believe that you have the worst defense in the NFL? I don't know how you could. The Broncos now are 32nd in total Dova, 32nd in pass, 31st in run. They've given up 1,715 yards. This is the part that's blowing my mind. They're giving up an 81.4% catch rate, 1.81 yards per route one, and 9.37 yards per target. Those are all worse than the NFL. All of them, every single one of them. Then add in, they're giving up 912 yards a yak. That's 10% worse than any other team in the NFL from a defensive standpoint, while giving up 14 TDs. And then on the other side of the field, they refuse to play their best wide receiver, Marvin Mims Jr. Like, I get you're trying to like sell Judy for more than he's worth, and anybody's obviously willing to pay you. But at this point, I put out a tweet earlier today. I am convinced Peyton is going to tank now. He says, I can't win with Russ. I got to dump Judy. We'll eat the money. It's the Waltons. They got the Walmart money. We'll eat the money next year on, Russ's terrible contract and just move on. That's the only thing I can think of, because this is embarrassing. But from a fantasy standpoint, we're going to continue to attack him here on the show.
Yeah, and speaking of the Broncos, who do they face in Week 7? The Green Bay Packers, perhaps a bounce-back spot for Jordan Love, who was just, not to mince words, just atrocious against the Raiders. He has a bye week. Clear your mind. Get the ball to Christian Watson, and this time throw it where he can catch it. He gives you a wide window to throw that football. Throw it in that vicinity, Mr. Love. My takeaways on the other end of the spectrum, you teased this at the top of the show, the Cleveland Browns defense, and I feel like this was a hot take at the beginning of the season, but maybe not as much now. I think we all know the league respects the 49ers defense, but I'll say it. I think the Browns defense is right now the best in the NFL. They have to put in so much work given how, that offense has been weird with or without Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson hasn't been good when he has played. And I saw this on Twitter via our boy Tage Seth Analytics. Cleveland's defensive success rate percentiles, and success rate meaning plays where you don't allow the offensive team to get a positive EPA on that play. Their defensive success rates, their percentiles at each week: 100th, 99th, 99th, 61st against Baltimore, and then 97th. This defense, they're just consistent every single snap, led by Myles Garrett. They ranked number 1 in pressure rate, number 7 in pass rush win rate, number 1 in run stop win rate. So whatever product you put out there, they were the first team to make Brock Purdy look a little questionable. He had those injuries with no CMC and Deebo Samuel, obviously, but that Cleveland defense is legit, and any chance I can get, regardless of who they face, any chance I can get to fade an offense that faces them, I will do so until proven otherwise. So Cleveland, that's my biggest takeaway there. We're about
as a San Francisco Niners homer, I mean, I'll even say it though. Cleveland, I mean, they have the best defense in the NFL right now, the way they're playing.
Yeah, and they have to put in more work because the 49ers offense is elite, defense is elite. But Cleveland, they're really carried by that defense because that offense is not going to be great. Spoiler, they're not going to be great even when Deshaun Watson comes back. Just putting that out there. We've seen it now. So, we're about to talk some. Go ahead.
If I could bet an under on Watson not coming back, I would bet it on the under. He's got guaranteed money. Why would he? He has no incentive to play anymore. Like, he's getting the money no matter what. So if anybody sees that and they're watching the show, let me know. I'd take the under.
Speaking of incentives, we did get news that Kyler Murray is back, but maybe we'll talk more Arizona Cardinals on the bonus show on Friday. What we're here for today on Wednesday is to talk about Thursday Night Football. But before we get into analysis for this game, let's hear a quick promo word from the Podfather.
All right, I want to take a moment today to talk to you about data analysis. The data analysis tool, we listen to the users. What do you want? What do you need? And we made it happen. We added popular reports like a fantasy scoring report, air yards report. And if you want to create a new report, but you don't necessarily want to look through every field, we have quick results. Hey, show me the most popular passing data. Show me the most popular rushing data, fantasy data. Done. And the thing just is much faster than it's ever been. And the report builder got a lot easier. I mean, check this out. We break it down into offense, defense. Show me just fantasy data elements. And then when you get results, hey, show me by draft year. Let's take a look at just certain players that played a certain number of snaps or a certain number of games last year. This is the tool that so many of you have been asking for, plus a bunch of dream features that Billy wanted and Cody wanted and I wanted and Dario wanted. So go to the fantasy tools section, click on data analysis, or go to playerprofiler.com/data-analysis.
We are back on the Player Profiler Pick and Power Hour on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube streaming. And we're here to talk about the Week 7 pick and board on Underdog Fantasy, and you can tail our plays using promo code Underworld upon entry. You'll get a deposit match up to $100 US. If you are watching on YouTube, we are broadcasting this on stream where we're sharing our screen live so that you can look at this underdog board with us. Let us know what stands out to you. As you can see on the board, there's promos. It's the best time of the year is October in many senses because you have baseball on, you have basketball on, you have football on, you have hockey on, and you can mix sports on Underdog. And there's a lot of promos going on. As you can see on the screen, there's a boosted payout for Jose Altuve for the ALCS Game 3. And we have 100K Sundays for football. Each Sunday, you get a customized to your account. You get a square, and all you have to do is put in, this square, whether or not it's higher or lower. You could put this in an entry, and you get entered into a lottery for tens of thousands of dollars. We're here to talk about Week 7, though, and it's Jaguars Saints. And on paper, if you were to just look at these rosters, perhaps an exciting matchup, right? The new look Saints with all those weapons in Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, who's actually looked decent this year, Rashid Shaheed, one of my favorite best ball guys to draft this offseason, tied to Derek Carr. And then on the other side, you have Trevor Lawrence and his dynamic pass-catching weapons. The issue is there's injuries here to deal with, as is often the case in Week 7. Trevor, we've got some stuff to deal with. So Juwan Johnson is out again for the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr obviously playing through some stuff, but he's been doing that for a bit now. No Zay Jones for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the headliners on each side. Jamal Williams is designated to return from the IR, and if he's active tomorrow, he could steal some of the work from Alvin Kamara, and I would just assume he does. And I don't want to be playing guesswork in the backfield myself. I'm not sure where you stand on that. And then the other headliner, Trevor Lawrence, playing through some pain, and it looks like, based on the Vegas market movement, based on some clips, that he's going to be wearing an ankle brace and playing through some pain. But just in case, Nathan Rourke has been promoted from the practice squad at quarterback, with CJ Beathard, obviously the first, the guy in line to start in place of Trevor Lawrence if he can go. A lot of information to deal with there, but Trevor, this is a 1.5 spread, so some value here, presumably, but the Vegas total at 39.5. What's your approach to targeting this game?
So I think we said it first, right? I want nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with the backfield this week on the Saints side. I think we're going to see Jamal get worked in. I think it'll be pretty clear that Kamara gets all the passing down work. And then, who knows what the split's going to be. I just have no idea. These are spots when you're looking for plays and how to play DFS and pick'ems. These are spots I'm just avoiding at all costs. However, we got to pick one from each side. So one of the things we like are, upside opportunities. You guys are going to continue to hear me say this every single week. And I want guys that can break their line in one play. Sure, some guys can, but other guys have upside that some don't. And you talked about him just a minute ago, someone we both have a ton of best ball exposure to, and that's Rashid Shaheed. And we are going higher than 34.5 receiving yards. So let's talk about why. We just showed the data analysis, and that's one of my favorite tools. So when you hear us bringing up all these stats, I'm in there using that tool, creating reports. It's one of my favorite spots to go. It's really user-friendly. The update that was put out this year is fantastic. So I'm going to go through some of those stats. So first, I want to target teams that are not great against wide receivers. Jacksonville has been the 8th best team to target this season for wide receivers in fantasy. They've given up over 1,000 yards. More importantly, they're giving up 13.3 yards per route run, and they've given up the league leading 148.7 points to wide receivers. So Jacksonville has given up the most fantasy points to wide receivers this season. So even though Denver is the worst team overall in pass defense, when it comes to wide receivers, they're giving up a ton of fantasy points. When Carr has been healthy, he has targeted Shaheed. He has 89, 63, and an 85-yard game when Carr has been healthy this season. Now, Raheed missed a game. We had the week 4. I don't think Carr was 100% healthy. So in spots that I think Carr has been healthy, which I only think he's been healthy for 3 games this year, right? We had 1, 2, and then the 3rd game. That I really think Carr's been 100%. We've seen him get those yards. Now, while he has only 20% of New Orleans yards, he has 20% of New Orleans yards while only getting 12.3% targets and missing that game. It continues to go up. So he's getting more used. And one of the things I look at is what a true line should be. So we use a model simulator that says, hey, the model's at 10,000 times. And we put in our projections through Player Profiler, and it tells me, it spits out for me what the true Vegas line should be. The true Vegas line on his yardage this week should be minus 160. Those are numbers I want when I'm targeting a pick'em on Underdog. I want lines that are, I'm not trying to take lines that are plus 120. I want things that are plus, minus 130, minus 140, that guys that are handling $1 billion a month are telling us, hey, we think this is going to go this way. Now, one of the other things, the stats as I was digging through this that really surprised me, Chris Olave has failed to exceed 60.5 rushing and receiving yards and 6 of his last 7 against bottom 10 pass defenses. That's a pretty crazy stat to me. He's averaging 47.7. So when we start looking at that, we're like, okay, we're starting to see Rashid get a few targets. And one of the things I also like is he is used both in the slot and outside. They're willing to move him around. They're going to scheme him to get open, right? The part we want to hear. He has 18.63 yards per route run, 18.63 and 11.04 yards per target. That is a dream matchup for me. I want guys that want to have a 34.5 line. If they're getting 18 yards, per route run, those are things I want to see. That means they're going after him downfield. They're using that opportunity there and giving it up. Now, remember, Jacksonville's defense has given up 897-1 to Pittman and 9109 to Pittman. They gave up 370 to Sky. I can't get open more. All right. Like, he can't get open. Like, they don't use him. The only good game Sky Moore has had this season was against this Jacksonville secondary. Okay. We saw Tank Dell's breakout game against this secondary. Right. Very similar profiles between Tank and Rashid. Tank went for 5, 145, and 1. Now, if you ask me who I think the better quarterback is, I'd actually take CJ Stroud over Derek Carr right now. Stroud's shown who he is. I think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback for a long time. Jacksonville gave up 695 to Jonnu Smith of the Falcons. And right, like that's how bad their pass defense has been. And then of course the Bills torched them. 8-121 for Diggs, 6-100 for Davis, and 2 for 62 for Hardy. And I would put, Shaheed in Hardy's role right now within this offense and how they're using him. And those are things I want to see. So I love the spot here. I think this line is too low for the targets he's going to get. So let's lock this in. I think we're going to get some nice CLV. I'm actually I looked right now, it's starting to move up to 35.5 at books already. So I'm going to let Ahan get his play in so we don't lose that yard today.
I love it. And, something that Chef mentions in chat is that this could be a defensive-minded game. And I'm really on the same page with that because Vegas has this total set at 39 or 38.5, 39. And we all know that primetime games love going under their Vegas total, seemingly even, no matter how low it is. And you saw the Saints and Panthers just get involved in a very low-scoring game where it seemed like no touchdown was going to be scored. And it was the one time truly that I felt like the Panthers, with Bryce Young at quarterback, had a chance at winning a game is because the Saints offense was just doo-doo. So yeah, I agree that it could be a defensive-minded game. And the reason I like Shaheed out of all these receivers, if we go higher, is because the Saints don't even have to be productive offensively. He could catch 135-yard bomb and we're good. And like you said, guys that can cash it on one play. So I really like that. And as you can see, I'm screen sharing, Shaheed's game logs on playerprofiler.com. You see the route participation consistent. And like you said, efficient on those, getting the high air yards. This is an indoors game in the Dome in New Orleans. So no worries about weather as we've had in, a few prior games. So I like the choice of Shaheed. And speaking of defensive-minded games and the comment we have in chat about field goals, I'm going back to, I'm not letting the Jake Elliott PTSD get to me. I'm going back to what I consider my bread and butter because I've been fine with these field goals made props if you've been following on the underdog pick generators. So I'm going to the other side and I'm taking Brandon McManus. Higher than 1.5 field goals made. We're going to lock that in real quick so that you guys can lock it in, Trevor can lock it in, and I can lock it in. We're going to rock this 2-piece for half a unit as usual, try to get back in the winning column. Rashid Shaheed higher than 34.5 receiving yards, and Brandon McManus higher than 1.5 field goals made. It has been locked in. Now, let's talk about McManus real quick. So he hasn't been 100% from field goal range, and that's fine. We're looking for volume here, right? We're looking, give us 2, even, a chip shot and a 40-yard, and it's fine. If he attempts 2, we most likely cash this. If he attempts 3, we're almost definitely cashing this. like you said, it's a low Vegas total. And what's the deal with Jacksonville's offense here? Well, Jacksonville ranks number 20 in red zone conversion percentage already this season. They haven't been super efficient, and that's why McManus has attempted 3+ field goals in 4 of his 6 games. Now, they'll probably have issues. You might say that, oh, they're going to regress positively go over the course of the season. Yeah, if Trevor Lawrence was healthy and, the connection with him and Ridley was going to keep getting better, then yes. But the connection with Ridley has not really been the problem. It's just because Lawrence has faced a lot of pressure, and now he's playing most likely through an injury. And if we don't get Trevor Lawrence, I like to see even more, because I think they do still get to the red zone a few times because they have so many playmakers, but they're going to likely have issues finishing in the red zone. And the matchup with New Orleans ranks number 32 in pass rush win rate. They don't pressure the quarterback. And they're number 8 in run stop win rate. So they are getting to the run. They have a good secondary, a very good run stop defense, but not a good pressure defense. And that's important here because Trevor Lawrence, he ranks number 14 in true completion percentage. He hasn't been as bad as many people want to advertise. And he's number 10 in clean pocket completion percentage. So he's making the plays when he's not having to run around all day. The problem is the Jags have faced a lot of pressure and they've not done a good job protecting him. And this is a matchup where the Saints are not going to feast off that weakness as much because they don't pressure the quarterback. They don't do a good job at taking advantage of that. So I think the Jags are still going to be able to produce some of those long drives with or without Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. But the problem will be with finishing. So I'm going to take Brandon McManus again in an indoor stadium. There shouldn't be wind involved. There shouldn't be, some other nonsense. Higher than 1.5 field goals made. And the only way I can see this losing is if they decide to go for 2. And I'm going to say that that's the issue with the Eagles sometimes, with Doug Peterson sometimes, is they often do the right thing and they go for 2. But that's the only way I see this missing. And in a game where the Vegas spread is only 1.5, I think we see a close, perhaps low-scoring game the whole game. That's the kind of situation where I'm fine with letting the kicker, kick a few field goals. Maybe he'll have one through 3 quarters, but it's a 1-score game, and they need a field goal to tie it. Boom, you cash in the 4th quarter right there. So since we're hopefully not going to see a blowout, since the Vegas total is low, I'm fine with going through with the kicker. I've been picking my spots decently this year, and hopefully we can get back in the winning column with that.
Yeah, look at Monday night. Again, another primetime game, another game that was not even close to the total of going over. That Chargers-Cowboy game, it never even sniffed the over of 51.5 or whatever it was that week. So, and this is a spot they're gonna need him this week. Even, like I said, even if he's healthy, I really like this spot. And there's a good... Like, if I told you at the end of this game it was 15-10, would anybody really be surprised? Right? If it was 13-10, would anybody really be surprised? Not really. Like, it's Thursday night, short week, and like I said, when targeting kickers, we're starting to get into that late October. Really got to start looking at weather now. We could see what happened with Moody. Well, I missed. It was cold. Field was wet. Outside in Cleveland this week. So we're going to start definitely something we want to look at moving forward.
And, Daniel says so eloquently here, I'm so worried about ETN and Ridley. And this is exactly why I'm targeting the kicker, because I could see Ridley struggling in this game, especially if Trevor Lawrence is not 100%. Ridley gets those high-powered throws. He has a high air yard share. So if Trevor Lawrence is playing on one ankle, not ideal for Calvin Ridley. And of course, ETN, if you follow me on Twitter, I already on the sports books, I faded ETN in a certain way as well, especially in the short week. His skill peripherals have not been great. Again, you could look at these on the player profiler pages, player pages. Number 41 in true yards per carry for ETN, number 22 in breakaway run rate and against a good run defense. It's the volume is probably already going to be a little lower, maybe because of game script, maybe because of short rest, but the efficiency is really suspect. So I am also worried about ETN and Ridley and think they're both very touchdown dependent this week. And speaking of sports books, if you want to bet on the sports books, either on the game lines or player props that aren't as juiced, well, speaking of the juice, you can follow the podcast every Friday night by Memphis Young on the Player Profiler Network. The Juice, a good spot to go after our Boda shows on Fridays for the Sunday Pick'ems. Once again, we're locking in for Thursday night football. Rashid Shaheed higher than 34.5 receiving yards, and Brandon McManus higher than 1.5 field goals made for our two-piece pick'em. We're 2-4 on these at a break even on the season. 2-4. That we're doubling our money every time we do hit one of these two pieces. So this is to get back in the positive column. You hit this two piece. And Trevor, we are, I'm a little bit, actually sneakily excited for the Sunday slate because there's a lot of moving parts with the injuries, but it also means perhaps a lot of value. And I know you're excited to dive in very soon once these markets start opening to the underdog pick generator, which, we've had a couple of mediocre weeks, but you've had a couple master classes on that already. So I know you're excited for it, and hopefully we can build on that this week.
Yeah, this is actually my favorite kind of slate. I love the slate that everybody hates, that's dirty, it feels disgusting, because this is the spot I think we're going to find some value. I even have a play I'm going to give our members just for underdog on Thursday night. You saw we were talking about some of these. There's some spots we're going to target depending upon whether Trevor Lawrence, like what I see in warm up. So probably about an hour before we'll go there, but I'm going to have probably a 3-piece play for everybody. And I like that. And then for the weekend, there's definitely some spots I want to target. I'm excited for a couple of these games, and I think there's going to be some cool football to watch. I also think there's going to be some really ugly football this week, but give me team lower and sign me up.
Ugly, you say Raiders Bears.
Yeah, I was trying not to name names. I was trying to be nice here. But if we're talking like that, the other one that I just think is not going to be like a fun game at all to watch is Cleveland and Indy. I think it's going to be an ugly game. There's two backup quarterbacks. Cleveland's defense, as we just talked about, is just going to crush them. Right? We got you brought up the Raiders and Bears. So then there's some fun games on the slate. I'm obviously excited for the Chargers and Chiefs. I'm excited to see if Jordan Love can show up against the Broncos, as we talked about how bad their defense has been. And for me, the two games, well, besides my Niners, because that doesn't count, the two games I'm most excited about is the Lions and the Ravens. You'll hear me say it here first. The Lions are going to boat race the Ravens out of the building. It's not even going to be a game. Detroit is going to show up, drop their nuts on the table, and let everybody know who they are in the NFC. And I think this is Detroit's week. They show up big time, even without Monty. And then this is the prove it week for me for Miami, right? They got blown out by Buffalo. This is a spot here against the Eagles that they got to show up for me. If you're a contender, right, if you're really going to be a playoff contender, I got to see your defense play a little better, and you got to show up this week for me against the Eagles.
I love you just dropping the mic with the hot take, because I feel like people don't come to this particular show for the hot takes, and I'm going to be on Wake and Take tomorrow, subbing in for Jason Allwine, and I've saved some hot takes for that. But I feel like people don't come here for the hot takes, so when you slip one in, it's so beautiful, and I love it. And personally, I'm looking forward to Arizona versus Seattle, which is weird to say, but there's some Kyler Murray, semi-drama. It seems like some people are surprised that he's back, and some people are like, when is he going to stop playing again? But yeah, I need Seattle to figure it the hell out, because the red zone efficiency not being there last week cost me so much, and I need to see them bounce back and make a statement against Arizona. Geno Smith's got to be better. They got to get the ball to their playmakers. Jackson Smith and Jigba's role started to go up after the bye last week. That's good to see. And Chargers Chiefs, it always seems to be a headliner game even if the Chiefs just spank the Chargers sometimes. But I'm interested to see how the Chargers respond to Justin Herbert pretty much choking towards the end of that last primetime game. Justin Herbert needs a statement game. And if the Chiefs think that trading back for Mecole Hardman is gonna be their answers, if that's really what they think, then I would love to see the Chargers come into Arrowhead and win outright. So that would be something to watch. But we'll be back on Friday for player pick'ems on YouTube on streaming services only for the bonus show. We'll have underdog picks up in the pick'em generator if you have the DFS Dominator on playerprofiler.com. And once we get more news about Trevor Lawrence and other injuries throughout the week, Trevor and I will be in the Discord dropping some pick'ems and hopefully some more winners heading into week 7. And for now, we will see you on Friday for the bonus show for week 7 after we get back in the winning column.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.